They tied her beside a dying mule, until a lone rider said, "She deserves a life, not a price." The dust moved first, long before the hoofbeats, long before the sun broke clean through the storm front rolling in. It twisted off the ground like smoke, curling through cactus needles and fence posts, warning the world that something was coming. And then came the rider, a dark figure against a pale horizon. One man on a gray horse too lean for comfort, saddlebags worn thin, rifle sheathed but ready. His hat was low, coat heavy. The silence rode with him, long and flat like the land itself. The wagon came into view not 10 paces ahead. Broken axle, one wheel sunk deep into cracked earth, canvas ripped like an old wound. Beside it, tied to a splintered hitch post, was a girl. Her knees were skinned, wrists rubbed raw with twisted rope. She didn't cry, didn't beg, just sat beside a mule that wheezed like its lungs were collapsing, legs folded beneath its weight, belly barely moving. Her hair was full of dirt and sand, mouth cracked white from thirst. She blinked when the rider came close, not in fear, just to clear her vision. 2 men leaned under the wagon's crooked shade. One was chewing a stem of dry grass, the other drank from a bottle wrapped in a rag. They wore no badges, but the iron on their belt said bounty, and their boots said they'd walked far without giving much back. The one with the bottle grinned, teeth brown. "Well now," he said, not moving. "You looking to buy, stranger?" The rider didn't answer. He stopped 10 feet out, boots in the dust. The other man stood slow, stretching his spine. "She's got a fair price on her. Don't look like much now, but you clean her up." He made a whistling sound through his teeth. "Could fetch real gold south of El Paso." The mule let out a low groan and fell fully on its side. The girl turned her face toward it. Still no tears. The rider stepped down. His boots hit hard. He didn't reach for anything, not yet. Just walked past the girl without looking at her and unhooked the canteen from his saddle horn. He placed it at her feet. The man with the grass stem spat. "That for her?" Still no answer. The bottle man laughed. "Ain't no charity out here, cowboy. Not unless you're looking to pay in lead." Now the rider looked up. Slow, careful. His face was worn but clear. His eyes, not mean, just emptied out. "She don't belong here," he said. The one who'd been chewing stepped forward. Hand drifted toward his belt, casual as breath. "Funny thing, you don't either." The wind curled between them, hot and rising. The rider didn't blink. "You walk away," he said. "I won't follow." The bottle man barked out a laugh and stood. "You serious?" He looked at his partner. "He's serious." The girl hadn't moved. One hand twitched toward the canteen, then stopped. Her eyes were locked on the rider like he was some ghost that didn't know it had died. The man closest to the rider took another half step. His fingers tapped the leather flap of his holster. "What's she to you?" The rider shifted his coat back with one finger. Not a threat, just letting the handle of his revolver show in the sunlight. "She don't need a price," he said. "She needs a name." That stopped them. The bottle man squinted, looked down at the mule, looked at the girl, then at the wind pushing the storm across the mesa. "Ain't worth it," he muttered. "Ain't worth a slug to die for trash." He turned, kicked the dust. "Come on, Deke." The other man didn't move. His jaw flexed once, but then he followed. As they passed the rider, Deke said low, "She's yours now, hero. See what it gets you." The rider didn't answer, just watched them go until they were no more than shadows on the trail. Then he turned. The girl didn't flinch when he knelt beside her. He cut the rope clean with a small knife. She rubbed her wrists, but didn't run, didn't thank him. She looked up at him. Her voice, when it came, was dry and small. "The mule's dying." He looked at it, nodded once. "So were you." She picked up the canteen, sipped once, then held it to the mule's mouth. The animal made no move. The rider didn't stop her. "You got a name?" she asked. "No." She watched him a long time. "You gonna sell me anyway?" He looked up at the sky. The sun was bruising red, half lost in storm cloud. "I don't sell anything still breathing." Her mouth twitched. Not a smile. Something smaller. The wind blew again. Stronger now. The storm was near. Thunder rolled far off, the kind that didn't mean rain, just dry rage. The rider stood, looked down the trail. He didn't offer a hand. He just walked. The girl followed. The mule didn't. It was dead by morning. They reached a ridge by nightfall, no fire, no talk, just wind crawling over stone. The sky bled orange until it didn't, leaving the world in silver-black silence. The rider unsaddled the horse, dropped the tack beside a rock. The girl found a patch of dry ground and sat with her knees up. She pulled her coat tighter, tugged the brim of her hat low. The borrowed boots stuck out in front of her like they belonged to someone else. Coyotes called down the valley. The rider sat near, back to a boulder, rifle across his lap, arms folded. He didn't sleep. She did. Quick and hard. By dawn, they were walking again. The horse was tired, but quiet. The trail bent west toward nothing. The rider said, "There's a place with water." She didn't ask where. By midday, heat thickened. The road narrowed between dry ravines. Vultures watched from high ledges, unmoving. Then came the noise, a sharp, distant crack. Not thunder. Wood. Splintering. They stopped. The rider crouched. Listened. Another crack. Then a curse. Man's voice. He moved first, slow and low over the ridge. The girl followed, boots silent. Below, a broken wagon. 2 mules down, one wheel off its axle. A man on his knees, swearing at a barrel he couldn't lift. Next to him, a woman, older, sun-beaten, arms crossed. Behind them, a child, maybe 8, staring at the heat shimmer. The rider stood and walked down the slope. The man jumped. The woman reached back, pulling the child behind her. The rider raised a hand. Not looking for trouble. The man squinted. "That's so. We can help." The girl stepped beside the rider. The woman's eyes locked on her. No words passed, but something softened. The man said, "Barrel stuck. Axle cracked. We've been here 2 days." The rider didn't speak, just set his rifle down and knelt beside the wagon. The girl moved to the mules. One was dead, the other breathing shallow. She untied the harness, whispered something low. The woman watched her. Together, they lifted the barrel clear. The man grunted. "Thought I'd have to shoot it loose." "Shooting don't fix much," the rider said. They worked in silence. The sun climbed higher. The rider pulled the axle free, cut a length from the broken tongue, and hammered a wedge into place with a stone. Crude, but it held. "You're handy," the man said. "Got a name?" "No. Don't blame you." The woman handed the girl a cup of water. No words. The girl drank it all, wiped her mouth with her sleeve. "You from north?" the woman asked. The girl shook her head. "No place." The child came forward, touched the girl's hand. The girl didn't pull away. The wagon creaked back onto the trail. The mules strained. "We head into Santiago," the man said. "You?" The rider looked west. "Not there." The woman nodded, like she knew. The girl looked at the child. "Keep your water high," she said. "It don't come back once it's gone." Then they were walking again. 2 ridges over, the rider said. "Storm's coming." The girl looked up. "Clear sky. Not rain," he said. "Riders." By evening, they saw the first one. Far off, a blur against the dusk. Then 2 more. The girl stepped closer to the rider. "Same men." He didn't answer. They moved faster. The trail curved through a shale pass. The horse stumbled once. The girl grabbed its rein and pulled it upright. They didn't stop. Night fell black. No stars. The air changed, colder, like shadow creeping ahead of sound. At a bend in the pass, the rider stopped, held up a hand. 3 silhouettes ahead. Mounted. Waiting. The rider stepped forward. One of the mounted men raised a hand. "You got something don't belong to you." The rider didn't reply. The man turned his horse sideways. "She's got a mark on her. Right wrist. Scar from a rope burn. She's listed." The girl stepped behind the rider. The third man called out, "You can give her to us, or die with her." The rider shifted. 1 breath passed. Then another. Then his voice calm. "You'll leave 1 horse behind." "What?" "One of you's riding home with a hole in his chest. Maybe 2. You leave 1 horse behind. Maybe I let one of you live. Laughter. Harsh and ugly. Think you're faster than 3? No. Just steadier. The girl pulled her coat back. The pistol was in her hand, not shaking. You ain't Takimi, she said. Not again. One of the men dismounted. He walked slow, hands up. You got fire, girl. But fire don't stop steel. He took another step. The girl raised the pistol. He grinned. The rider moved. No draw, just motion. One shot. The dismounted man folded, face first, arms wide. The horses screamed. The second man fired, missed. The rider fired again. The second man slumped forward in the saddle, dead before he hit the dust. The third turned and ran. The rider didn't follow. The girl stood still, gun shaking now. You shot first, she said. The rider looked at her. You didn't blink. The silence came heavy. They pulled one horse loose. Let the other bodies lie. You said one would ride home, she said. He nodded. He's carrying the story now. They rode through the night. No words. Just hoofbeats and breath. By dawn, they reached a flat stretch of land where the cactus grew thick and green. The rider stopped. He looked west. Water's there. Maybe a town. The girl looked back. They'll come again. He nodded. You think they'll ever stop? No. She swung down. Took the rifle. Started walking. Then we keep moving. He followed. Behind them, the road vanished into heat. Ahead, nothing but dust, and what came next? The town rose slow from the horizon. A handful of buildings slouched together under a white sky, worn down like old teeth. No smoke, no music, just the buzz of flies and the creak of an unchained sign swinging in the wind. They came in from the east, hooves soft in the dust. The girl rode now. The rider walked, reins in hand. His boots left deep prints. No one greeted them. Windows watched. Doors cracked, then shut. The saloon had its shutters up, but inside, a piano leaned dead in the corner, untouched. The rider tied the horse outside. The girl stayed with it, one hand on the rifle tied behind the saddle. He pushed through the saloon doors. Inside, stale smoke, a fan turning overhead that clicked with every turn. 3 men at a table, one behind the bar, cleaning a glass that didn't need it. The barkeep looked up. Drink. The rider nodded. Water. That got a laugh from one of the men at the table. Ain't no rain in 6 months. You'll be sucking cactus before sundown. The barkeep poured from a jug. Slide of ceramic on wood. That girl yours? He asked. The rider didn't look back. No. She's young. So is fire. The barkeep grunted. We don't do trouble here. Then you'll like us fine. The table went quiet. A door creaked upstairs. Someone moved. A woman stepped down, red dress, boots soft on the stairs, hair pinned but messy. She didn't speak, just leaned on the banister, eyes on the stranger. Then the door opened behind him. The girl stepped in. Her eyes found the rider first, then slid to the others. She didn't speak. She just walked to the bar, took the second glass the barkeep had poured, and drank. One of the men at the table, short beard, old eyes, stood. Thought you were gone, he said. The girl didn't blink. He walked closer, ran south, 2 winters back, took silver from my brother's chest. The rider shifted, just slightly. She was tied beside a dead mule 3 days ago, he said. She was always running from something. The man said, maybe should have been caught. The girl said, maybe you should have burned. No one moved. The man raised a hand. Don't want no fight. Then stop breathing so loud, she said. The woman at the stairs gave a short laugh, covered it with her hand. The man stepped back. Another voice, from behind the bar, lower now. You said she's not yours, but you're speaking for her. I don't speak for anyone, the rider said. You put a man down near Devil's Spine. The rider nodded once. We heard. The third man at the table stood. Slim, pale. You planning to stay? No. The man stared long. Good. The rider looked at the girl. We're done here. But she didn't move. Instead, she walked to the table, picked up the cards one of them had been playing, and scattered them across the floor. The men didn't stop her. Then she turned to the bartender. There a church here? Not anymore. A well. He pointed through the back door. Dry. Like everything. She looked at the rider. Still want to leave? He didn't answer. They stepped outside. The wind had died. Heat pressed down. Across the street, a child stood barefoot in a doorway, watching. A dog barked from somewhere unseen. The rider mounted. She didn't. He looked down at her. She stared west, toward the end of the street, where the land fell away into heat shimmer and silence. I remember this town, she said. The rider said nothing. She turned. They all watched, didn't they? His eyes didn't move. She walked to the horse, loosened the rifle. Then she turned and started down the street, not away, but deeper in. He followed. They passed the old blacksmith, door swinging on one hinge. A forge cold for years. At the end of the street, a small building sat with its door nailed shut. Faded paint red. Justice of the peace. The girl stopped in front of it, looked at the door, then turned, sat on the step. The rider leaned against the rail. They said nothing for a long while. Then, I ain't tired, she said. He nodded. She looked up. You. He watched the street. Not yet. The sun dropped low. Shadows stretched. Behind them, the saloon door swung once. No one came out. The wind started again. They sat, side by side, and watched the town pretend it had never remembered them. By morning, the town was already behind them. No words. No goodbyes. Just footprints left in dry dust that the wind would eat by noon. They followed the trail west. The land opened, wide, low, and golden. No fences. No voices. Only the sound of reins creaking and the distant call of hawks. The rider walked beside the horse. The girl rode, shoulders back, rifle slung across her back, boots firm in the stirrups. Her face was quiet now. Not empty, just finished. Around midday, they came upon the house. It was half buried in sagebrush and sand, its roof buckled, porch leaning like a drunk against time. One shutter hung crooked. The well beside it was covered with a board and a rusted tin bucket. The girl slowed the horse. The rider looked once, then turned toward it. They stepped inside. Floor creaked. Dust rose. It smelled of dry wood and heat. One table. One chair. Nothing more. The girl walked to the window. Stood there a long time. He took the board off the well. Lowered the bucket. The rope groaned. Water came up clean. She stepped onto the porch, watching. He handed her the cup. She drank, then filled it again and poured some on the step. Still pulls cold, she said. He nodded. She turned. We could stay here. He didn't answer. She walked into the brush, came back with a handful of dried flower stems, laid them on the windowsill, bent the stem of one, pressed it flat. The rider unsaddled the horse, let it walk free. He sat on the porch. She swept the inside floor with her boot, found a small cloth sack in the corner. Inside seeds, hard gray, forgotten. She looked at him. He nodded. She went out behind the house, found a patch of dirt where the wind broke against a fence. She knelt, dug with her hands. No words. He watched. When she finished, she came back to the porch, hands brown with soil. He handed her a strip of jerky. She took it, leaned against the post beside him. They sat like that until the sun touched the edge of the land. Then hoofbeats. Not many. Just one horse. From the trail they'd left, a rider came. Young, fast, reckless. Dust in his wake, rifle across his chest. He didn't slow. The rider stood. The girl didn't move. The young man reined up hard 10 yards out, dust curling around his horse's legs. His voice was high, sharp with breath. You him. The rider said nothing. The young man pointed. You shot my brother. Still silence. He dismounted, stumbled, pulled the rifle from his back. You took her, he said. She had a price. The girl stepped off the porch. She still does, the boy said. The rider stepped between them. The girl raised her hand. No. The boy laughed, teeth clenched. You think I won't shoot you, girl? She took one step forward. No. I think you're gonna try. His hands trembled. The rider didn't move. The boy raised the rifle. The girl's shot dropped him flat. One round. Through the gut. Dust swallowed the sound. He gasped once, curled, and didn't move again. The girl lowered the pistol, holstered it. The rider walked forward, stood over the body, then bent and pulled the rifle free, broke it open, emptied it. He looked back at her. She said nothing. The rider dragged the body to the side of the trail, covered the boy's face with his own coat, tied the horse to a post, then walked back. She was on the porch again, seated, elbows on her knees, head bowed. He sat beside her. The wind moved the hanging shutter. Dusk came fast. The girl looked at him. "You leavin'?" He didn't answer. "You said no one's yours." He nodded. She looked at the dirt under her nails. "I ain't yours, but I'm here." The rider stood, walked to the edge of the porch, looked west, then east. He took off his hat, held it in his hands. The girl watched him. He didn't move for a long time. Then sure, he sat back down beside her and set the hat between them. The night came. No one spoke. No one needed to.